Hey everyone, welcome to Comics with Bueller. As always, I am Bueller, and as you can see, I'm not alone today. I have a comic book writer here as a guest today, Amanda Deibert. How are you today?
I am great. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Awesome, and you're writing a book right now, and that's kind of why we're here. Dynamite put us together. Thank you, Dynamite, for doing so. But you're writing Darkwing Duck right now,
I
which is
am.
a instant classic. Everyone remembers this from their childhood. Is the pressure on?
Yes, because it's such a beloved character and nostalgic. I grew up with it, as did many of the people who with the cartoon, as did many of the people who were reading it. So yeah, there was a lot of pressure. And it was even more than I kind of expected. I've worked with some pretty iconic properties before. I've done stuff with big superheroes and Star Wars and things like that. So like I've done pressure things, but I don't think I've ever had as much just like buzz, excitement, like reactions on social media with any other project as I did when Darkwing was announced. And then, which is really exciting and really fun and makes me very happy, but it also does make you like, oh my gosh, people are really excited about this. I could ruin everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of lore to this and a lot of just fun times involved. Just childhood watching this show after school or on Saturdays with the other Disney lineup that was up at the time. So a lot of pressure on you. I don't admire the pressure, but I think it's pretty cool that you're the one in charge of this. So I think you're doing a great job. But let me ask you, how did this come to be? How did you land this project?
I was really fortunate. I was asked if I was interested in doing it, and I gave a very enthusiastic yes. That's exciting. I would love to. And then it became the fun of figuring out, what I wanted to pitch and what I wanted to do with it, and that meant going back and watching a lot of the 90s cartoons to like remind myself of the world and the canon of characters. And so I enlisted the help of my 8-year-old daughter and said, like, I need you to watch a bunch of cartoons with mommy for work. And she was like, sure, sounds great. So yeah,
That's an
really
awesome
fun.
deal. Is she reading the book?
She is. It's really funny. She loves comics and loves to read them. I am a writer. My wife is a comic book illustrator. Our daughter is so much more interested in comics that we don't work on than
Okay.
comics that we do.
Does she put it together that mom writes this? This is mom's comic. I know you've done a bunch of other stuff as well, but does she realize, oh, this is my mom's work, or is she just kind of like, oh, it just is what it is? Because you have a really very cool profession, by the way.
I think it's cool too. She does know, and she thinks it's cool and fun, but I think for her it's just always been the norm. So I think maybe when she's older, she'll really realize that like we have jobs that are a little more like fun than maybe some other parents do. But I think right now she's just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. But she does like to pitch me story ideas, like if I'm working on Darkwing or if I'm working on like DC superhero girls or something, like sometimes she'll be like, okay, mom, what if like Wonder Woman and Supergirl punch a tornado? And you're like, okay, sure.
So obviously, Darkwing. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Darkwing resembles a certain other character that's a little more people know of or whatnot, and this character might be up in a new movie coming out next month or whatever it is. But anyway, is there any I know you've done some DC work and stuff. Is there any time when you're writing like maybe I might want to make this a little more darker, a little more a little more like the character it might be a little based on, is there any nudge in that direction at all?
I mean, it is that fine line when you're doing something that you want to kind of stay true to the Darkwing, cartoon canon. And then, yeah, you do want to sometimes make things like a little bit edgier, a little bit darker fun. But for me, it felt very important for it to actually feel like Darkwing. And not like a reinvention of or like a doing something like I personally really wanted to do something that kind of honors the character that we know and love versus like trying to change. It's like we all love Darkwing because he's Darkwing. So if I make him into a different character, somebody else, and like that's a different thing, and I could do that, but like for me the fun was making it really feel like we're watching new episodes of this show that we grew up with and we knew and loved. So for me that's where I wanted to go, while still wanting to like, yes, like tackle some themes that I think are interesting and, you know, sort of modernize and update it, because obviously it is not in the 1990s and like some of that just doesn't translate. But yeah, for me it was really about like giving this character his due.
Yeah, I was reading a few of the issues the other day. I noticed like cell phones were introduced into the first issue of the book. That's not something that I remember them covering on the TV show when I watched it. So I appreciate you bringing the modern theme into it and stuff. I'm curious, since it is a Disney licensed property, do you have any say on creating like original characters for the series at all, or do you have to stay with the playbook what Disney's gave you?
I can create characters, but like with anything else when you're dealing with IP that other people own, you know, everything has to get approved.
Sure.
So it you know, yes, I can do things. There's one thing that I'm hoping, you know, we just got renewed for some more issues, and then I'm hoping that there will be even more in the future, because there is a particular character that I want to create and do something with that I haven't gotten to yet, but I think would be very fun and exciting for people, and it's something that we haven't seen before. So I hope the book does well enough that we can get to it. But yeah, I'm actually right now, I'm a little bit spoilers, I'm working on a villain that will be new. After there's some more issues coming out and we're really going through his rogues gallery, but I have created a new villain that is not part of the cartoon, so I'm excited about that.
So pretty much you're going to have a Disney character that you brought to life. That's pretty awesome. That doesn't happen very much.
That, you know, that's true. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, that's true.
Very nice. You're talking about the rogues gallery that he has. What characters do you like writing for besides obviously Darkwing itself? He's got what's the guy with the bigger duck, like he looks like a pilot, Launchpad or
Launchpad. Yeah, that's his sidecat.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites because he was in other series as well. But what are some of the other characters that you enjoy writing? I know his villains, you know, they resemble a lot of other villains, but is there any ones that particularly do you like writing for?
I really like Morgana, which is like kind of his love interest, you know, bad girl gone good. She's very fun to me, lots of magic. She's one of my favorites, and I got to play with her a lot in this arc. You know, it was funny in going through all the different villains. One that was kind of appealing to me because not a lot had been done with him in the cartoon was Liquidator, which is like, speaks a lot in kind of infomercially catchphrases, is made of water, very salesman-y type guy. And as I was doing an issue that really featured him, I was like, oh wow, his voice is hard to write because he does all these like catchphrases. And then I was doing some research on it and came across an article that was saying that that's why they hadn't done many episodes of the cartoon with him, was because he was hard to write. And I was like, oh, I see how I have backed myself into a corner. But it is fun. I mean, he's got some really fun villains, and I've been trying to get all of them in there, at least in like cameo, and even brought back some that you know, had, well, I don't want to, never mind, that's a spoiler. No. But there's some really obscure ones coming soon, so yeah.
Very nice. Well, I was just like I said, I just got done reading. I have issue number 1, which is, I really enjoyed that quite a bit. It was nice. And number 2, I love that one as well. I can't remember the villain's name in that one, but he obviously resembles some kind of clown.
Oh, Quacker Jack.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much. I'm assuming you know the names pretty well. I remember.
One could hope, right?
You know, we're gonna get back to Darkwing Duck at the end of the video, but I want to move on to some other stuff that I found out about you that are very interesting, because people want to know about Amanda. And
Let's do it.
first off, you're a fun person, Archie. You're happy.
Pretty much. I mean, I try to be anyway.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. You know all the answers, don't you?
Well, my thesis is that you do.
So I'm referring to your book
Mhm.
that you wrote. You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So I have a guided journal called You Already Have the Answers. And it's the basic premise is it's 12 chapters. There's a theme for each month, and there's a question every day about your life for you to reflect on. And it always kind of gives a gratitude kind of answer, although it's not like this idea of everything in life is wonderful and happy. It's sometimes things are really hard. And what's amazing about you is that you get through it, or you have people in your life who are there for you and show up. So sometimes it's about, like, what is something that you're proud to have survived, or who is somebody that helped you and showed up for you in an important way when you went through something hard, or something nice that a stranger did that really, changed your day or your life. So it's not the toxic positivity, like if you just think happy, life's going to be happy. It's more like the reality of like life can be rough, but also we somehow get through it and we help each other out. And there are things for us to remember are good, even in the darkest times. So that's kind of the idea of it. And the whole thing started actually on Twitter. I like to procrastinate on social media as a writer, as most writers do. If you're working on a comic book script, a great way to take a break and then accidentally lose yourself is to go on social media.
Yeah.
And I started asking questions on Twitter that were kind of along this idea of just trying to help people remember that even though like social media can sometimes be a cesspool, that there are lovely things about it. And people got really, I thought a couple people would answer and it would be just no big deal. And instead, people started sharing these really intense and personal and vulnerable stories. And then other people were coming in and offering support and encouragement. And, oh, when I lost a person in my life like this is what helped, or I relate to that. And it stayed like troll free and just kind of lovely. And they started to go viral, and people were asking for it in some sort of book form. And I didn't want to share other people's stories because that didn't feel right to me. And so what I came up with was this guided journal where I share a little bit of my own answers in the beginning of each month, so that it's like we're doing it together. But then it's really just about you answering one question every day and kind of discovering things about yourself, or reminding yourself of cool things about your own life. And it's been really fun.
That's great. I know that a lot of times the good look gets overlooked, and my personal thing in life is live your best life, and I live by that motto. I look at the good. I don't pay too much attention to the bad, just because it doesn't do me any good doing that, to be honest. So I focused on the good things in my life, and I go from there, and I don't let too much get me down. I mean, if it's something major, that's a different story, but I can appreciate what you've done with that book, and just kind of hitting on the more positive side of things when there's so much negativity that's out there that gets all the attention. And that really is the thing that bothers me the most, that gets all the attention, because in general, people are good. People are very kind and giving, and most people are. And I could see this book kind of leaning that direction. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. And I'm trying to help us all remember that a little bit.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let me ask about your comic origins a little bit. So my daughter, she was really in, and the only comic book she was really in was just like Archie books. And she loved Archie books. I still have a stack of her Archie books, and those are the only ones she ever wanted to keep, was those books. Were you a fan of those at all, or were those something that helped your way in your comic book journey?
That was exactly me as a little girl, actually. Archie Comics were my absolute gateway into comic books. Specifically, I really liked the Betty and Veronica digests, as a little girl. But it was going to the grocery store with my mom, and by the checkout, there would be all the Archie Comics. And like my treat was that I got to get a new one every time we went grocery shopping, which was all the time. So I ended up with like a pretty intense collection, but that was that was my intro into comic books, and I loved them. Read so many of them. So yeah, exactly like your daughter. That was my gateway drug.
Do you still have your Archie books at all, or they have long gone? Man?
I still do have some, and my wife still has quite a few. So we have like and then we have some of the newer Archies as well. But yeah, we do have a pretty large collection of like older Archie books, which is kind of fun.
You mentioned your wife. Her name's Kat, correct?
Yes, Kat Staggs. She's also a comic book illustrator.
We're gonna get to her in a minute. But anyway, okay. Let me ask you a question: Archie or Jughead?
Jughead.
Jughead. Okay. You know what question's coming next? Betty or Veronica?
Veronica.
Okay. I guess that's all right. If you said you went with Jughead,
I love them both, but Veronica has had my heart since I was a little girl, and all I will say is that means that I have some very exciting news coming out in the future that I can't talk about yet, but I do love Veronica.
I was going to say, that question just kind of popped in my mind. I'm like, she has this dedication to these characters. I wonder if she's ever wanted to kind of jump into that world. And it sounds like, without giving anything away, that might be a possibility, correct?
I would love to, and be very excited if I were jumping into that world.
That's fantastic. I noticed that your writing is a lot of comedy. It's fun writing. It's not too serious. It's on the lighter side. But you've also done some horror stories as well. Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with the horror stories. I haven't read them, but I believe they were called Tales of Halloween Nights. They're some short stories. Were those comic based at all, or strictly horror based?
So it's an anthology that comes out every year with Storm King Comics, which is John Carpenter's Tales for Halloween Night. They're all very horror anthology. In a couple of my stories over the year, my wife Kat Staggs always illustrates those stories. We do those together. And in a couple of them, there are some like maybe funny moments, but it is strictly horror. It is straight up horror. And we actually have another project that's going to come out later this year with Storm King that is a graphic novel that is horror, that is like strictly just like an adult horror book. And there might be a line or two in there that makes somebody chuckle. And some of the kills are creative in a way that might like gross people out, but also make them laugh. But it's really straight up horror.
So you enjoy writing comedy better, I take it? Is that kind of your wheelhouse? Because that's kind of where I've seen most of your books kind of fall in that category, a little lighter side of things.
I like both. I mean, I love comedy, and I think that I always like, that's my natural default as a person. But like actually doing just the straight up horror and some of the more serious stuff is really fun. And I think, where I prefer to be is working on multiple things at once and getting into kind of different headspaces, because it's a nice way to kind of fight writer's block. Is if you're working on, one thing that's like light and funny, and then you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And then you can kind of set that aside, do something that's a totally different headspace, because it's sort of, I don't know, it almost like recalibrates or something. And then it's like the back of my brain can figure out what the punchline of the joke is going to be, or what the like creepy moment in horror is going to be. And horror and comedy are actually weirdly, it's kind of similar writing, because you're writing to evoke an emotion, right? Like with comedy, you want somebody to laugh. With horror, you want somebody to like jump or be scared. And so like you really are writing for like a specific kind of emotional reaction.
Now, you're a writer on a bunch of things. I mean, it's just not comic books and stuff like that. Is there anything you're most proud of? What would be your main thing that you're like, wow, I really nailed it there?
Well, I'm really proud of the guided journal. Like, you already have the answers. The whole journey with that is probably something that I'm personally the most proud of. And then it's hard because I'm proud of different different work for different reasons. You know, like my first Wonder Woman story will always be near and dear to me because I got to work on it with my wife. I was pregnant with our daughter while it was coming out, and it was like my first time working for DC or any of the big comic book companies, and you know, I'm getting to work on like this iconic superheroes. Like that one always is like will have the special place in my heart. But you know, they're all everything that I work on, I love for different reasons, which is a good. And then whatever I'm working on in the moment becomes, you know, my passion at the time. So
Very nice.
it's a
Okay, we're gonna turn the page a little bit here. We're gonna go a different direction. This is gonna be fun. So, what's nice about when I search your name, you come up on IMDb, and you have an acting background. And I'm just gonna list a few of the a few of these. I'll try to do it with a straight face. Helltown is one on your resume, I guess you'd say, which was a movie, I believe. And I did watch the trailer, and I saw you in there, which was pretty cool. There's another one called Drinking Without Income. It was a TV show, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a web series that did end up on like a few platforms.
There you go. Yeah. And then there was another one, and since we're talking about Darkwing Duck, and this is kind of a family show, it's Crazy B Word. We'll just put to you that one. I think everyone else will figure it out. But this is what I love about this last one, the Crazy B Word. It has your picture on there. It has your name, and below it says Janet, and then in parentheses it says Head Butter. That's all it says. It says Janet, and it says in parentheses Head Butter. So. Can you fill me in on what's that referring to?
It was, you know, that was such a long time ago. I think the way that the character was like referred to mostly in the script. I think that was the situation, is that she was called Head Butter more than she was called by her name, if I remember correctly.
I picture in my mind literally you just going around like headbutting people and stuff like that.
And I think that's probably pretty accurate. That was a short film, and I think that was pretty much how that one went.
That's awesome. No, I was really having fun looking at that. I kind of chuckled when I saw it, and I thought that was really neat. It's been a while since you've done some acting.
Yes, that was mostly in my 20s. I was an actress, and I kind of wrote on the side. In my 20s, and then in my late 20s, I sort of switched focus, and I got onto a show on Hulu. And then because I was writing and like in the writer's room daily, it sort of was one of those things where I couldn't go off on auditions. I couldn't go film things. So it started tapering off, and I started writing more and more. And now I will occasionally do something, you know, like if a friend's doing a movie or something. But for the most part, I think the last time I really acted, like Helltown, which I was a lead in, was a horror film, and I was pregnant with my 8-year-old daughter at the time, and that's the last like kind of big thing that I did. So,
anything else? Acting bug hit you again some other time, or have you kind of moved on?
I mean, mostly, I think I've moved on. But I still do it every once in a while. I still love it. I mean, it was something that I really enjoyed, but I like the lifestyle of being a writer much better. And I think, I don't know, it just suits me. Like I enjoy writing. I'm not sad about the trade-off.
So if like Helltown 2 Revenge of the Headbutter comes out, is that something? Yeah, sign me up.
Sure, for sure.
Okay. All right, now we're going to move into, we talked about your wife a little bit, Kat. She illustrated a series, it was a weekly comic strip called Hot Mess. And looking at that strip, and it looks exactly like you that's in there. So is that you? Are you the Hot Mess?
Well, so I wrote Hot Mess, and she illustrated it, and it was based on embarrassing stories from my life. So that was our first collaboration that we ever did before I'd ever done any professional comic book writing. that was a weekly strip, and I would tell some real, true, embarrassing story from my life, and she would illustrate it. And we did that for weekly for about 2 years.
So you have no problem sharing the whole world of Amanda, do you? You're like, oh, just let it go. Here it is.
Well, anything I don't want to share, nobody knows about.
the triple X hot mess, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
But yeah, I'm pretty open about most things. So yeah.
Very nice. Well, Amanda, let's go ahead and get back to Darkwing Duck. Like I said, this is what brought us here, but I'd like to get to know you a little bit. Hopefully you had fun kind of spilling the beans on some of that stuff. But obviously Darkwing Duck is put out by Dynamite Comics. What issue are they on right now? Do you know what's on the newsstands? I have issue 1 and 2 in my collection. I think either 5 or 6.
I feel like 5 is 5 about to come out, or did 5 come out?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, 5. I think 4 is out right now. 5 comes out very soon, maybe next week, like very, very soon. So that's where we are. And the first run was a 6-issue arc, 8-issue arc, 6-issue arc, but we're gonna go at least to 10. So
sure. Well, right now where I'm at in the story, I'm just on issue 2, and at the end of issue 2, he's kind of decided he doesn't want to be a superhero anymore. And so there's a lot more out there I need to read, because Launchpad was pretty upset about that. So I gotta go pick up issue 3 and 4. Actually, I might have a digital copy on my email somewhere, so I gotta check that out. But it's pretty neat to see that come back. You know, it's so nice to see things from your childhood reemerge, and especially like just the cartoons or the shows you watch. And you know, it's a different day and age, and maybe we don't get a cartoon of this, but it lives on in comic book form, which to me is just as good. Because even though I'm reading this book, in my mind when I'm reading it, I'm hearing the voices from the TV show.
Me too.
Not my voice.
Me too.
Does that ever get overwhelming a little bit when you're putting pen to paper and writing this down? I mean, you're hearing Darkwing in your head.
I get that theme song stuck in my head so often. And I actually the funny thing, in issue 1, I worked in the theme song, but then there were like legal reasons that it couldn't be exactly the theme song. So then I had to go back and kind of rewrite lyrics, but I wanted to make sure that they like musically worked when I'm like singing it in my head. So that was a really good time, because it's like very close in meaning and in like pacing. But yeah, I get that stuck in my head all the time. I definitely hear the voices from the cartoon as I'm writing the characters, which it's fun. It's kind of cool when you have something like that where there are kind of established voices that you're like really like, oh, this is exactly what this would sound like. This is exactly what they would say. So it's a fun way to write.
Very nice. Well, Amanda, thank you very much. I want to give you the spotlight a little bit. Do you have anything coming up as far as appearances or anything like that?
I do. Next week, my family will be in Lake Como for the Lake Como Comic Art Festival, which is in Italy. And then we will be in Ontario, California for, is that Comic-Con Revolution? And that is in 2 weeks. And then a couple weeks after that, we'll be in Washington, D.C. for the convention there in June. And then obviously San Diego Comic-Con. So we've got quite a few appearances coming up in the next couple months.
Very nice. And you have a website as well. You want to mention that a little bit?
Yes. So I'm at amandadeibert.com. I try to keep that updated with appearances and conventions, and also like any upcoming books that are coming out, so you can check it out in your comic book store. I sometimes get a little behind, but I think it's pretty caught up right now.
And it's a very entertaining website to go check out and learn stuff about Amanda as well. So,
oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Amanda, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I always look forward to doing interviews. And like I said at the beginning, when I got a chance to look you up and do the research, man, it was a blast. It was so much fun finding out about you. And I was like, okay, I'm really looking forward to this now, because I get a little nervous. Then I find out about you, and I'm like, okay, this is a fun trip. It's going to be a good time. But Amanda, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you, everyone who's watching here at Comics with Bueller. Don't forget to go to Dynamite. Go to your local comic shop and go check out Darkwing Duck. And who knows, maybe some kind of Archie thing down the road. We don't know this for sure. We don't know this. But definitely there's Darkwing Duck on the shelf. Go buy it and all that good stuff. All right, everyone, don't forget to live your best life. You know what to do. We'll see you next time. Bye.